All right, so get this. We're diving deep today into some cutting-edge AI safety research.
Yeah.
It's all about this wild new approach they're calling constitutional AI.
Really interesting stuff.
And you're not going to believe how it works. We're talking AI guardrails.
Okay.
But get this, the guardrails are trained on rules written out in plain English,
Hmm.
kind of like a mini constitution.
Wow.
You with me?
Yeah, that's fascinating. So you're using like plain language to control AI now.
Exactly. So we've got this research, paper dense as a neutron star, but don't worry, I'm going to break it down for it. What's the big problem they're tackling here?
Well, they really focus on this thing called universal jailbreaks.
Jailbreaks.
Yeah.
Now, this isn't about AI escaping a physical prison or anything like that, right?
Gotcha. No. Think of it more like this.
Okay.
Imagine tricking a customer service chatbot into giving them your private information.
Oh.
That's the kind of danger we're talking about here. Someone with NO expertise could potentially use a universal jailbreak to force the AI to do things it's not supposed to,
Right.
even if it's programmed not to.
Whoa. That's kind of scary. So how do they stop that from happening?
Well, that's where constitutional classifiers come in.
Okay, yeah, you teased that earlier.
I
How
know.
does that even work?
It's pretty ingenious, actually. Instead
Yeah.
of just relying on technical filters,
Right.
they actually use a set of rules written in plain English
Okay.
to train the AI's safety system.
So these rules, this AI constitution,
Yeah.
they actually teach the AI the difference between a harmless request and a potentially dangerous one.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm picturing this AI with a tiny little constitution, like a pocket guide to being a good AI citizen.
Right.
But how do they know it actually works? Did they, like, test this thing out?
Oh, they put it to the test. And not just with some casual testing either.
Oh, yeah.
They brought in the big guns.
Oh, really?
Ethical hackers, 405 of them to be exact,
Mm.
spending over 3,000 hours trying to break the system.
That's intense. Talk about a stress test.
That was a serious stress test.
So how did it actually perform? Were they able to withstand those attacks?
The results were pretty impressive. Nobody managed to create a universal jailbreak that worked consistently.
Really?
Yeah, there were a few instances where they got bits and pieces of information,
Okay,
but nothing that could cause any real harm.
that's a big win. So this constitutional AI,
Yeah,
it can actually hold up under pressure.
it definitely shows promise.
But the bug bounty program was just the beginning, right? Didn't they take things a step further with, like, automated testing?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They went beyond human hackers and threw even more sophisticated attacks at the system,
Wow.
simulating a truly determined adversary.
Okay, so, like, really trying to break this thing?
Yeah, and they were able to block over 95% of those automated jailbreak attempts.
Wow.
Way better than previous safety methods.
Now, here's something I'm sure is on everyone's mind. What if it's so good at blocking the bad stuff
Yeah.
that it also blocks a ton of perfectly normal requests?
Yeah.
You know, like making it impossible to actually use the AI without getting frustrated.
That's a crucial point. And the researchers took that into account.
Okay, good.
They found that the improved system only increased refusals on regular everyday requests by a tiny 0.38%.
So basically, it's not going to cramp your style.
Exactly.
Okay, so it's safe and usable. That's a tough balance to strike. Is there anything else that makes this system stand out?
One of the coolest things is its flexibility. This AI constitution isn't set in stone. You can update it as new threats emerge,
Oh, that's good.
just like we update laws to address new types of crime.
Right, makes sense.
For instance, they specifically tested how well the system could adapt to prevent someone from getting information about chemical weapons.
Oh, wow.
And it passed with flying colors.
All right, so we've got this constitutional AI trained on plain English rules. That's been tested by hackers and proven to be effective. So what's next? How do they actually make this thing work in the real world?
Well, that's a great question, and that's what we're going to get into right now.
Awesome. Stick with us, folks. We're diving straight into part 2.
So how do you actually build one of these constitutional classifiers?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
Remember, we're talking about teaching AI using plain English rules.
Yeah.
But how do you actually turn those words into something an AI can learn from?
Yeah, it's not exactly intuitive.
It's like teaching a dog to sit using only Shakespearean sonnets.
Right. I can't even imagine.
Where do you even start?
Well, that's a great question.
Well, it starts with something called synthetic data.
Synthetic data, what is that?
Think of it like this. Let's say you have a rule that says, don't provide instructions for making explosives.
Okay.
The researchers actually use AI to create tons of pretend conversations.
Oh, so like fake conversations.
Exactly.
Okay.
Some of them follow the rule and some of them break it.
Okay, so like showing the AI examples of what to do and what not to do.
Yeah, kind of like training a puppy with treats and timeouts.
Right, right. But how do they know if the training data is any good? I mean, wouldn't bad training data lead to a poorly trained AI?
You're absolutely right. Bad data would be a disaster.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So they use this really clever technique called automated red teaming.
Automated red teaming. Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
It's basically using another AI to try and break the system.
Oh, so it's like AI versus AI.
Exactly, which generates even more challenging examples.
So it's like a sparring partner, helping the constitutional AI get better at recognizing tricky attacks.
That's a great way to put it.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing it's not all doom and gloom. They also use examples of normal conversations, right?
Exactly. They feed the system massive amounts of everyday harmless conversations to make sure it isn't too sensitive.
Okay, so it's like teaching the AI that not every request for information is a threat.
Exactly. It needs to be able to recognize the difference.
Right. So they've got all this training data, a mix of good and bad examples to teach the AI what's right and wrong. But how do they actually put these constitutional classifiers to work in the real world?
That's where things get really interesting.
Okay, I'm ready.
They actually use two types of classifiers.
Two types.
Yeah, input classifiers and output classifiers. Okay, what's the difference?
Think of the input classifier as a gatekeeper.
A gatekeeper?
It analyzes what you're asking the AI before it even starts generating a response.
So it's like the first line of defense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if it detects something potentially harmful, it can shut things down right away.
So it's like a bouncer at a club, making sure no troublemakers get in.
Yeah, that's a great analogy.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about stuff that slips past the gatekeeper? Is that where the output classifier comes in?
Precisely. The output classifier is like a safety net.
Okay, a safety net.
It's constantly monitoring what the AI is saying as it's writing a response.
So it's watching the AI's every move.
Exactly. And if it detects something harmful, it stops the AI immediately before it can spit out any dangerous information.
Hold on. That's super cool. So it doesn't have to wait for the AI to write a whole paragraph before it realizes something's wrong.
Nope. It can stop at mid-sentence if it needs to.
That must make a huge difference for someone actually using the AI.
Exactly. It's all about real-time safety.
That makes a lot of sense. We've got these plain English rules the AI Constitution used to train classifiers that act as both gatekeepers and safety nets.
It's a pretty robust system.
But the researchers didn't stop there, did they? They really went down the rabbit hole with the technical side of things.
Oh, absolutely. They did a deep dive into the nuts and bolts of building these classifiers.
So they were getting their hands dirty with the code?
Yeah. Experimenting with different AI models, training data, and even fine-tuning the algorithms to get the best possible performance.
So it's like they were building a high-performance race car, tweaking every component to squeeze out every ounce of speed and safety.
Exactly. They wanted to make sure it was both effective and efficient.
Okay, so they've really thought this through from the high-level concept of constitutional AI down to the nitty-gritty details of how to build these classifiers. But let's be real. There are always challenges when you're dealing with something as complex as AI safety, right?
You're absolutely right. AI is constantly evolving, and the bad guys are always finding new ways to misuse it.
It's a cat and mouse game.
Exactly. The researchers acknowledge that this is an ongoing challenge, and they emphasize the need for continuous research and development to stay one step ahead.
So it's not a one-and-done solution?
Nope. It's a constant process of improvement and adaptation.
Which brings us to a really important question. This research focused on very specific threats, but AI can be used for both good and bad in countless ways. So what does this all mean for the bigger picture of AI safety?
That's a question we need to be asking ourselves constantly as AI continues to evolve and become more powerful.
It's not just about stopping the bad guys. It's about shaping the future of AI in a way that benefits everyone.
Exactly. And that's what we're going to talk about in part 3.
Sounds good. Let's dive in. So we've been talking about this constitutional AI thing, and it seems like it really has the potential to keep AI from going off the rails. But let's zoom out for a sec. What does this research mean for the future of AI safety, like, as a whole?
Well, it's not just about preventing those specific harms.
Yeah.
You know, it's about, like, baking our values into the AI itself.
Baking in our values. What do you mean by that?
Well, imagine AI systems that are, like, inherently designed to respect privacy, promote fairness, and avoid discrimination.
Right.
Things like that.
Right.
Constitutional AI gives us a way to actually make that vision a reality.
So it's like creating a moral compass for AI.
Exactly.
Guiding its actions and decisions in a way that aligns with, like, our human values.
Yeah, exactly. That's a really powerful idea.
It is. But it also brings up some pretty big questions, like who gets to decide what those values are? How do we make sure that these AI systems are actually representing everyone's perspectives?
That's a really important point,
Mm.
because if we're not careful, we could end up with AI that just reflects the biases of its creators.
Right, and that could have some pretty serious consequences.
Absolutely. So how do we address that? How do we make sure it's fair?
Yeah, how do we do that?
Well, that's where things get really interesting.
Yeah.
Constitutional AI has the potential to, change the way we govern technology.
Okay. How so?
It could give communities the power to actually have a say in how AI is developed and used, making sure it actually serves their needs and reflects their values.
So it's not just a bunch of tech experts making all the decisions.
Exactly. It's about bringing diverse voices to the table and having a real conversation about what we want AI to look like in our society.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's pretty exciting, actually. So we've talked about the big picture, but let's be real for a minute. Are there any potential downsides to this approach?
Of course.
Hmm?
Like with any technology, constitutional AI could be misused.
Right.
We have to think about things like the potential for manipulation, how to make sure those AI constitutions are updated as new threats pop up.
So it's not a perfect solution. It's a tool, a powerful one, but it needs to be used responsibly.
Exactly.
And that means having those tough conversations, being aware of the risks, and working together to make sure AI is a force for good in the world.
I totally agree. If there's one thing I hope listeners take away from this deep dive, it's that the future of AI isn't set in stone. It's up to all of us to shape it, to make sure it's a future that benefits everyone. Constitutional AI is a promising step, but it's really just the beginning.
Couldn't have said it better myself. We've covered so much today, from universal jailbreaks to AI constitutions, from synthetic data to the very nature of AI safety. And you know what? It feels like we've only just scratched the surface.
There's definitely so much more to explore.
Yeah, for sure.
And I really encourage everyone listening to keep digging, keep asking questions, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible with AI.
Absolutely. And if you're ready to go even deeper, we've got a link to the original research paper in the show notes. You can check out all the technical details, see what other questions it sparks for you. But for now, that's a wrap on our deep dive into constitutional AI. Thanks for joining us.